They call it the place, too tough to tame. But when it comes to Darlington Raceway, it's known for one thing: hard, intense action. Tonight, 29 trucks from the Espeed Contender Series will hit the surface here for the Glove Box Throwback 250 on RaceSpotTV. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me in the booth tonight is Davis Richards. Hugo Wees will be in the director's seat for tonight's action. But it's going to be an intense night of action over 183 laps of throwback racing at Darlington Raceway. You can see the weather conditions. 89 degrees is the air temp. 95 degrees is the track temp in most quality skies on this late afternoon setting. Wind about 8 miles per hour at the moment towards the east and on this 1.3 mile circuit, this egg-shaped track. Let's look at the standings meanwhile for the Espeed Contender Series. The top 14 have punched their tickets in. We've had 8 different winners punch their tickets to the playoffs so far this season, with a couple races to go as you look at the standings up on your screen. But the pressure's on around the 16th place spot. It's currently a 10-point difference between Bliss and Lange Davis.
It is. They're getting really close to that cutoff point. The championship standings are heating up, and we're ready for a night here at the track that's too tough to tame at Darlington. And Justin, I'll tell you what, I'm excited. You've got the ever-looming pressure of the chase. You've got the ever-looming pressure of that outside wall. Who's going to slap it? Who's going to come out in victory lane? And you might see a surprise winner here too tonight that's going to solidify their spot in the chase for the championship.
And we'll see who's able to do so tonight. Just a couple races to go until the round of 16. Let's look at your starting grid for tonight's coverage of the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250. Starting on the front row tonight, Sean Powell in the Gen X Racing Machines will start alongside his teammate Scotty Reinshield. Difference of about 0.2 of a second on their qualifying pace. Doug Lemons will be in row 2, followed by Malik Ray, with Brent Keefe and Brandon Holder rounding out the top 6. John Verga and Mike Bruno will start in row number 4, and lining up inside the top 10, Tim Marlowe and Matt Kingsbury. Outside that top 10, Paul Bliss and Marshall Berry look to try and help themselves to some more points, followed by Timmy Lockwood Jr. and development driver Gregory Thompson, the second most in terms of grid spots. James Torrey will start in 15th along with Doc Stout, who needs a lot of points, tied for 17th in the standings. Well, he's followed by Sean Mosnick and Bobby Everhart. Everett F. Lane and Brad Muir will round out your top 20 in row number 10. With Tyler Hayes and Sean M. Ryan rounding out the top 22. Rest of your grid will play on the bottom side of your screen for tonight's coverage on RaceSpotTV. Davis, the main thing is, though, these drivers will have a lot of unknowns. A brand new build coming out today for iRacing that completely levels the playing field in terms of how the trucks are set up for the races.
It does, Justin. Brand new built out. How are these drivers going to handle it? Have they had any practice? Who's had the most practice with it? I don't know, Justin, but I'm going to be crazy to see how these trucks handle with it, because this is actually my first time watching them under this new build.
This is going to be very interesting for sure. For some of these drivers, they've been practicing for a couple hours to get used to the build. For some of them, this may or may not be their first few moments with the warm-ups on the racetrack with the said build. We're getting all set to go for the green flag. Powell is the control truck on the left side. Reinshield on the outside. As they approach the green flag, we're off and away from Darlington Raceway for the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250. And a great start for Powell in the Jeff Burton throwback car, as he's able to pull himself to single file, but close action already for second.
Side by side through the corner they go. Who's going to come on top as they head down towards turns 3 and 4?
Followed along with Doug Lemons in the Express Motorsports machine with a Brett Bodine throwback in the number 70. Trying to get a run on Malik Ray, who's riding the high side. Ray just avoids tapping the wall and avoiding getting himself a Darlington stripe, as he'll shoot around Ray to get himself up to 3rd.
Did in close contact right there. He's still following that number 70 machine, and now he goes low. Look how he diamonds the corner, and he diamonds that exit, wants to get as low as possible, and oh, it looks like he almost hit the wall as he gets out of the groove.
And something's going on with Ray. I think he's pulling off the racetrack. So Ray, I think, is electing to go into the pits already early on, just on lap number 2, because remember, he's already clinched into the postseason for the Espeed Contender Series, he'll go into the pit lane. But for the time being, let's look at Brent Keith. He's driving a Dale Jr. 2001 MLB All-Star Game throwback with John Verga in the Jimmy Spencer throwback, trying to close on him, but trying to hold off Matt Kingsbury, his teammate, Davis.
Matt Kingsbury, indeed, in that number 21 machine. And just look how close to the wall they get, right through the middle of the corner. You got to avoid scraping that wall. If you do, it's going to damage your truck severely, and you don't know how it's going to handle here, especially with the new build, Justin.
That is for sure, especially with a lot of the changes as we look at Paul Bliss. Remember, he needs to get the most points possible in the Area 51 racing truck, and currently in the 8th spot. He is in a decent spot for the time being. The question is, can he keep up the pace? We're just 4 laps in, and this is a track where attrition and tire wear will be key, as Lemons falls back behind Mike Bruno to fall to 4th.
He does. Mike Bruno having a decent start to this race already within that top 5, but the unpredictability that we have tonight. Not only do we have a tough track, but we got a new build, like I've said about 3 times already. And then with the playoffs looming closer to, man, this is going to be an intense night. We're already seeing that intense action take place.
And when it comes to Darlington, you see it right here with how these trucks are handling. You want to be as close to the wall as possible for the best possible run, because that is the fastest line around the racetrack. You'll see them try and cut, just let off the gas and cut a bit towards the apron, ride that high line, and then try and diamond off on turn 2, then ride as close to the wall as they can through 3 and 4. That is very challenging, of course, because you can risk damaging your truck, of course, if you go too high on the track and losing all kinds of momentum.
You could, but you have to get so close to it just to be able to get that momentum, like you were saying. It's a really tough battle, and you got to avoid that apron as well, too, because that apron is slick, and it is not the preferred racing line. There's about 2 preferred racing lines here, but it's really like 1.5.
Yeah, you're maybe at the most you have 1 1/4 racing lines, and it's going to be very difficult to pass unless you're down a straightaway, as you continue to see Everett F. Lane in the Richard Petty throwback try and get around that number 71 of Bobby Everhart. Again, you're seeing a lot of brand new schemes in terms of throwbacks. When it comes to Everhart, he's throwing back to the original Richard Childress racing cars, which included drivers like Ricky Rudd driving the 3 back in the late 1970s, early 1980s. It's really a chance for drivers and teams really to show their creativity.
It is, and I always love watching this racetrack in real life too, and just seeing all the different paint schemes, seeing the creativities. And, you know, it takes you down memory lane as well, Justin.
It absolutely does, as the 24 of Everett F. Lane tries to get himself up to 20th. As he'll get the run, Everhart will just let him on by, and Everett F. Lane moves up to 20th spot. Everhart, though, you might notice, already has himself more than a Darlington stripe. He has a Darlington dent on the right front, which is part of why he's losing so much speed and losing a bunch of spots now on the racetrack after starting 18.
He is, and then we're going to see that. We're going to see that throughout the night too, with these drivers getting that Darlington stripe that they call it, and some of these, it's taking the best of the drivers and it's taking them up and it's ate them up for dinner, because these striping that wall, it's so hard to race around this track, and that wall is just going to come at you, especially on the exit of turn 2. So look right there and look how close he gets.
Yeah, and that's really the fastest line, because on the bottom you burn more tire wear up. The fastest of the fastest, though, are the ones who are able to use the bottom and the top, really, that we've seen across the iRacing service, where you're able, because you get more tighter if you ride that higher line compared to using the bottom line and pushing up in some cases. It's, again, about balancing that tire wear out, as we're 11 laps into a 183-lap race.
We are, and that nutrition is starting to take effect too, as you're watching that 85 machine of Paul Bliss riding right behind Brent Keith in glove box racing. And look how close. We got
something's going on with Doug Lemons. Pardon me there, Doug Lemons has hit the wall, and he's got himself a Darlington stripe, already lost 2 spots. Make it almost 3, as let's look at your AMSOIL instant replay to see what exactly happened to the 70. And it looks like he might have made contact there, Davis, along the backstretch with the speed he was carrying, and ends up damaging his right front of the truck.
Yeah, he did, and man, that's a tough break, especially this early in the race with the tires as fresh as they are. Not saying fresh tires, it only takes 4 or 5 laps to wear these tires out, but once they get on that 50, 40 lap green flag run, then you're going to be seeing some tire problems.
Yeah, as a driver, how do you balance that out to make sure you don't burn your tires in the early going to get yourself in a decent spot for the long run of the race?
It's all about using that throttle and just easing off when you get inside the corner and just getting on it as late as possible.
And right now, some of these drivers, they are trying as hard as they can and hard as they might to still push as hard as they can, maybe to gain as much time as possible. Lange in 16 just gave himself a Darlington stripe, but for the most part, drivers are keeping things clean at Darlington so far. The pit window is around, at the most, 60 laps in terms of fuel, but you never know when there's going to be a caution at this racetrack.
You do, and speaking about pit road too, it is so hard. It's one of the toughest spots to get onto pit road. As you're coming through 3 and 4, you cannot see the entrance to pit road till about the late middle part of the corner, and by then, if you're not already slowing down, then you've missed it.
Yeah, it's so easy to miss it. You've seen Denny Hamlin in real life a couple years ago do that and still end up winning the race, but not everyone can do exactly that in terms of a run like Denny Hamlin did back in 2017. Meanwhile, Levens is losing a ton of time. He just lost 2 more spots, make it just about 3 as he has to let by Marshall Berry as he'll fall back to the 10th spot. -7 since the drop of the green flag, very much likely due to that damage.
You're right, Justin. He's falling back, and he's falling back quick, too. How's that damage going to affect him through the race? Because it's already affected him really bad on the short run. His only hopes is, ooh, the number 21 of Matt Kingsbury gets a Darlington stripe.
Yeah, Kingsbury, a huge hit to his right side of his truck. He's running in the 4th spot, and he's already losing momentum to Paul Bliss, who's already caught up by about 2 truck lengths down the front stretch just from that track damage alone. Kingsbury also has some damage on the back end of the truck as he comes up to lap traffic, and James Hickson now hold him up a lot. Here comes Paul Bliss with the run. He has the momentum as he'll try and close on in, and Kingsbury to move himself up to 4th.
Right side by side. Well, I'm sorry, they're actually single file right now, but yeah, still got that right side damage, but still making the best of it too as he gets around the 85 of Paul Bliss. But yeah, the drivers right now are pretty much single file, filling out the track, filling out the new build. But look at that run, especially on the exit of the corner of the 21 that Kingsbury gets.
Yeah, that I think is one of the main strengths even with the Darlington stripe. The question is he going to be able to maintain the said pace with the damage? Paul Bliss on the exit is getting a faster exit, but when it comes to Kingsbury on the entrances here and there, he seems to gain some of the time back depending on the corners. In fact, I believe he just tapped the wall a little bit on the entry into 1 and 2. I need a second Darlington stripe, but he's still keeping up the said pace. But that leads to the next question, because leaders are making their way through lap traffic, as you may have noticed. How much is that going to affect the drivers, especially with the closing speed at Darlington?
Oh, it's going to affect them tremendously, Justin. The closing speed on this is absolutely outstanding, especially with the drivers on longer tires and how you're able to handle those tires and manage those tires. I mean, you can easily be faster than a second and a half on new versus old tires.
Yeah, and that is a big-time difference at this kind of a racetrack that will mix up a lot of strategies, where the most you really want to go on a set of tires if there's a quick caution, I've heard from some, is 5 laps at the most because of that risk. So right now, when it comes to lap traffic, 2 drivers are lapped down, Gregory Thompson and James Hickson. Brandon Horner is at risk of being lapped by the leader, Sean Powell, who's been able to pull way to a 1.6-second lead to his teammate, Mike Bruno, who's having his strongest run so far as a Veltman driver. As we got something going on in turn 1.
Off the pace, and then he comes back up and he hits another driver, and he's going to go spinning.
Yeah, big situation. Turn 1. Kingsbury's in the wall, meanwhile, through 3 and 4 now. Kingsbury's got big-time problems. He's stuck against the wall. He loses a ton of time. So something going on. Brad Neer looks to maybe be involved as well, as he's losing a lot of time. So Matt Kingsbury involved in a big-time incident.
Big-time incident, but we're still under green flag conditions. No caution is out yet, unless...
That is the main risk at this track. None of them went sideways on that, but it's, well, with the apron, how wide the apron is on the bottom side of the racetrack, sometimes you won't get that caution to come out here.
You're right. We just seen that right there, Justin. Multiple contenders, big heavy hitter contenders, in fact, have already got heavy damage to their vehicles and their trucks, and there's no caution, no way for them to get down pit road without losing multiple laps.
And Kingsbury, with that said damage after smacking the wall, that started up the issue with turn 1. Then it compounded into turn 3. He is now all the way down on the pit exit side of the racetrack, going as slow as he can. Looks like he might have to come into the pits now as he rides along the apron. Amunsto's getting damage as well. Marshall Berry got
damage right there with Scotty Reinshield in the 27 machine. He comes back up and almost, I'm sorry, that was right in front of him.
You're in fact right. Gregory Thompson, who is lap traffic in 26th spot, made contact with Timmy Logwood Jr. around that same window. Caution flag is now out on the racetrack at Darlington. And that looks to be for Gregory Thompson, who made that contact with Timmy Logwood Jr. on the racetrack on the exit of turn 2.
We're going to take a look at the Amstel instant replay right there, but Scotty Reinshield got really lucky, but he's still got some right front damage.
Yeah, a lot of luck in that one. Gregory Thompson's truck is absolutely beat up from that. As, again, you got to wonder what's going on with going to go through the mind of Timmy Logwood Jr., who got a lot of contact. He's now a full lap down with that incident. And we got Paul Bliss spinning on the pit entry, locking up the tires. So drivers are dodging him, going around on the high side of the pit entry. We talked about how difficult it is for the pit entry in green flag conditions. Paul Bliss just found out how difficult it is under yellow flag conditions, catching the pace car.
It is, and man, I didn't think pit road was going to be that hard to get onto, especially under yellow flags, but you just seen it there.
Yeah, that's going to lose him a lot of time in terms of spots because of where he spun. He was right by the commitment cone, meaning the other drivers can't just give spots up with the pit entry. He's going to lose a lot of time overall. So we'll have to see who's going to get the best pit stop now. Once again, Sean Powell has led every single lap so far on the racetrack. Question is, can he keep the said pace up so far? He's out and away as the first driver out of the pits. Mike Bruno will come out in second. But rounding out the top 3 for the race out pit road will be Brent Keith, who came into the pits about 5th spot.
Did close battle off pit road right there, but man, that was a pretty decent green flag run we just saw. But we've seen a lot of factors in, a lot of drivers hitting that wall and some early contact with some heavy hitters in this race.
And if you've made contact with the wall so far and you're still on the lead lap, do you maybe stay in longer and get repairs if you have the chance? Because a few drivers are actually taking that chance right now.
Well, Justin, it just depends where you're at on the track position. If I'm up front, then no. But it all depends on your track position and where you're at.
Right now, again, a lot of drivers going in for repairs. About 14th on back, Doyle Lawrence will be the first of that group. Doug Lemons was a part of the ones getting damaged. Gregory Thompson and Timmy Logwood Jr. have been given end of longest line penalties for bringing out that caution flag on the track. But we've talked about, again, a little bit about this new build and how these drivers had to deal with it. Some of these changes include more grip at the super short tracks. Davis, that includes tracks like Martinsville. Richmond could become a factor in the round of 16. Engine cooling is increased for higher tape levels, meaning these drivers will be allowed to run a bit extra more tape, about an extra 3 to 4%. And then the big ones with how it's going to change how these trucks are built. The camber limit drops to 6 degrees in the front. The left front ride height has to be now lower than the right front ride height. Also, ranges have been adjusted for the front toes, as well as maximum allowable heights up to 6 inches at the front, 8 inches at the rear per NASCAR's inspection process with the OSS. So that really, again, changes how a lot of these teams build their setups for all the cars.
It does, and I've never been more of a setup guy. I've never been a real setup guy, but it does change a lot how these drivers handle it, how they affect it, and they haven't had that much practice. I mean, the build's literally been out today, so these drivers, they're probably more than likely running with fixed setups with just some minor tweaks to them.
Sean Powell has chosen the outside line because of how strong that said line is. Mike Bruno will line up on the inside for the restart, as we'll be starting off on lap number 30. So let's look at your top 8 right now. That is currently Sean Powell, followed by Mike Bruno in row 1. And currently in third spot is Brent Keefe. On the outside of row 2 will be Sean Mosnick for the restart, with Sean M. Ryan in the Jeff Gordon throwback scheme, starting alongside the number 42 of Brad Patterson. And rounding out the top 8 for the time being, Doc Stout, who's having a good chance to gain a lot of points with no damage so far, and Brad Neer, who's had to repair some damage to the right front of his truck after making some contact with Matt Kingsbury. They'll approach the restart zone at Darlington Raceway for this throwback weekend. Powell is off and away with Mike Bruno as the Gen X trucks take us to the green flag. We're back out and away with the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250.
And Sean Powell takes that early lead against the 19 of Mike T. Bruno. Got about a truck length, but we might be having some contact back in the back. I'm looking at the 62 of Brad Neer. He loses the momentum on the exit. Now he's got the 24 of Everett F. Lane all over his tailpipe.
He's trying to hold him off right now. Near in front of his losing spot. Lane dives to the inside and passes by him like he's standing still. Now here comes the Bobby Allison throwback with the number 7 trying to make a run. Tucks back to the inside as they'll go back to single file for now with how difficult turns 1 and 2 are.
They are in both, all 4 of these corners are completely different. It's like an egg-shaped oval. And I've actually had the chance to go out here to this racetrack. I've seen it in person, and man, it's completely different. And it takes a whole nother set of driving skills to navigate this track.
Yeah, with the different kinds of turns, with this egg-shaped circuit, it takes a lot of skill by far. Remember, on the old Darlington, where they're running for turns 1 and 2 right now, that used to be turns 3 and 4, where it used to be considered you could not pass in that corner because of how you had to take the corner. It was basically considered like a one-lane part of the racetrack at Darlington. But the bravest of the brave, they're able to try and make passes work in that corner.
They are, Justin, and we're gonna have to take a look at that and see how it comes into play with these drivers.
We will right now. Right now, the top 10 at the very least is down to single file on the circuit. Tim Marlowe trying to break his way into the top 10. He's pulled away from John Verga, who scraped the wall a couple laps ago. That gave him now a 4 to 5, maybe actually 7 truck length advantage towards the back behind him. So right now, question is, can Marlowe do something to try and gain himself some spot already with the Darlington stripe on his right front?
Pay close attention here to Tim Marlowe in that 28 machine. Because we're going to have to see how that damage is affected. We've said it before, and we're probably going to say it over and over again, but we're going to have to get deeper and deeper into this race to see how it affects these drivers and this damage, if it really does have some major effects with the aerodynamics of the trucks.
Speaking of damage and aerodynamics, remember, one of the drivers who stayed in to get some repairs was Doug Lemons in the 70. He has just moved himself by Ryan Lange on the track to move himself back to 14th, and he is coming quick. He's repaired most, if not all, the damage that was on the right side of his truck after making significant contact in that Brett Bodine throwback. And he's continuing to gain up the speed right now on the racetrack with Lemons. This time by, he'll come across the stripe in that number 70, turning a 29 flat. That was at the same pace as Brent Keith in 4th place.
It was, and he's still got some heavy damage to that right side, but it doesn't look like it's affecting him too bad, as he's still able to run competitive lap times with these other drivers.
Again, that's sometimes one of the benefits. Can you get repairs done while not getting swallowed up in said traffic? when you're on the racetrack. Let's look what's going on up at the front with Sean Powell, because Sean Powell has reached the first of lap traffic in Paul Bliss with Mike Bruno, his teammate, keeping up with him. Bruno turned the fastest lap time of the race so far by 2/1000ths of a second. He has to avoid the left rear corner panel of Bliss, and he'll pass by the lap traffic of the number 85 machine. But that loses him a lot of time. That just shows if you're behind a slower truck, you can lose as much as 2 to 3 tenths a lap.
Especially where you meet him too. If you meet him in that wrong spot, and like you said, it's going to lose you a lot of time. And these lap traffic trucks, they don't know where to go because the high line is the preferred line. They're not going to go to the apron and let these guys go. So it's very, very difficult, especially if you're a slower truck, to get out of the leader's way. And it's very difficult, even more difficult for these leaders to get past them.
Yeah, speaking of difficult to get around, remember, sometimes you get a lot of traffic when it comes to slow traffic. Doc Stout is in the midst of it, as he had to let by Keith Stewart in that Allison throwback lane, almost taps the wall. That allows Stewart to get the run up in front of him. So Keith Stewart will move himself up to 8th spot. Doc Stout looks to get it back up to 9th as Stewart runs below the apron, in fact, at Darlington. He'll move out of the way, allow Scotty Reinshield to go by as Reinshield tries to go underneath in the Snickers throwback in the number 27 Gen X truck. So things are getting very dicey in that field. Stewart says, I want to get away from this traffic.
He does. How many times do you think we're going to say Darlington stripe, or how many times do you think we're going to see these drivers get a Darlington stripe?
I wouldn't be surprised if all but maybe 5 trucks get a Darlington stripe by the end of the night here, to be honest. Just the way the trucks run, as they're going to have to dodge Brad Patterson as something's happened to Brad Patterson. He's given himself a Darlington stripe with a 42, so that's going to hold everyone up for that battle for the 8th spot. Lane has to dodge Logwood Jr. on the bottom side, almost hits the back door. Patterson taps the wall. Doc Stout has to go down low to avoid. And that was a close one as Lane almost ran up the back quarter panel of Brad Patterson. So everyone from 7th all the way back to about 13th spot on the racetrack, make that 15th, is all gathered up in one line, separated by about a second.
He is not paying close attention to that 27 of Scotty Reinshield. He almost makes contact with the 24 of Everdell Flame, but gets past him. There's sort of a slide job on him as he goes through the exit of the corner, down through the back stretch. But look how much trouble these drivers are having with these cars and trying to get past them and try to pick their lanes.
And Brad Patterson's got a problem. He just gave himself a second Darlington stripe in 3 laps. Keith Stewart gets loose behind them and moves even more farther back to 15th spot, if not back to 16th as Ryan Lange passes by behind him. Things are getting very nerve-wracking, and you're starting to see some of the drivers saying, I want to be as safe as possible. I don't want to be around this mess.
Right, we got a slower truck to the inside lane right there, and now they're trying to get past that 42 machine. There's the 27 of Scotty Reinshield right on his right, left outer panel, left quarter panel, and then he pulls off to the side, giving some room and to let him get back in line.
And Doc Stout is the first to break away as he's up to P number 7. And we'll see just how much of an advantage he's able to pull away. He's got a 4/10 of a second faster time than Patterson last time by. Almost tapped the wall on the exit of turn 2, but now he's got some clean air. The question is, can he take advantage of it as Lane slides down the bottom of the racetrack, is able to just save it.
Look how loose he gets. Now look at the 70 of Doug Limits trying to take advantage and get past the 48 of John Verga.
And very dicey now as the tires are wearing down on the track at Darlington. That is one of the main things. You either get very tight or do you get what Lane is having now. You get very loose on the exit of the corners. Lane now drops himself all the way back to 13th after getting loose on the last lap out of 4.
He does, and there's just so much drama going on with this race. I don't understand how we've only had 1 caution so far at lap 46.
I think it takes absolute talent to make sure you have proper race management and keep yourself out of trouble in this race. And this group has been very dicey, to say the very least. Scotty Reinshield has also gone and by Patterson now with this group to get himself to 8th. and he's now trying to catch up on Doc Stout and Quick. Gets the run on the outside line, and using the draft of Stout to try and catch up. You'll see how they approach things. Stout lets his truck roll off the gas, brakes a little bit towards the apex. Ryan Shield does not brake for the apex. That gives him that extra tenth of a second advantage. Stout knows he's faster, moves to the bottom side, and Ryan Shield is up to P7.
He is, and even if you're a slower truck, though, ooh, in the 27, that gets another Darlington strap on that outside wall. Now Doc Stout is going to take advantage as he looks to the inside, but then he gets back in line.
And Stout checks up a bit down the front stretch, not going to force the issue, into the very tight turn number 1 at Darlington Raceway for the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250 on RaceSpotTV. We are currently on lap 48 of 183, still a ways to go at Darlington, one of the longest races of the year when it comes to this circuit. And at this,
Justin, it is a very long and demanding race. You have to be so focused, lap in and lap out. And it's, man, these drivers, I've tried to race this track multiple times and I could never do it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice to make sure you have the right setup and the right speed, that's for sure. And a lot of these drivers, again, have had only about 5 hours to work with the new build, as it officially went live at about 3 p.m. Eastern time today. It takes a lot of talent to make sure you, for some of the best of the best, to have a setup ready to go in that small amount of time.
It does, Justin. And man, I don't know. I've just never been able to do it. That outside wall just keeps wanting to bite you, and it's amazing that these drivers are still able to do it. And we've only had, like I've said before, 1 caution in 50 laps.
Yeah, a very calm race so far at Darlington for sure. Sean Powell still holds on to a 1.15 second lead to his teammate Mike Bruno, followed by Sean Mosnick in the top 3 with Brent Keith and Sean M. Ryan, who's gained 17 spots since the drop of the green flag, in the 5th spot. So some drivers having a very strong start to the night tonight at about the lap 50 mark at Darlington.
They have, but Sean Powell in that 41 machine still up over 1.1 second of Mike T. Bruno, but then you have to go all the way 7 seconds back to see the 15 of Sean Mulsack.
Yeah, those Gen X trucks have just absolutely taken off and have been, that entire team as a whole really has, I think, has been one of the quicker ones so far to get at least a test setup together for tracks like the Brickyard and for this race at Darlington. And again, just shows again the talent of part of that Gen X team to be able to prepare that quickly with as little time as they had.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, you can see that. You can see the teams are working in their favors, and the team alliances, how much they help with these drivers. I guarantee you they've been practicing all day and setting these setups up.
And you know what else? It's fitting that Sean Powell is leading this race too. He felt like this build, when discussing things just about an hour before the green flag, when I asked a few drivers their thoughts on this build, that it was absolutely perfect. It felt he was completely happy with the way the build fit to really his driving style. And you're seeing that example tonight as he's lost 0.6 of a second in the stretch of a corner. And it's because of lap traffic, it looks like, mainly because of Timothy McQueen.
Yeah, it is, and they're just going to have that problem with lap traffic all night.
Yeah, Timothy McQueen is running a Alan Kowicki throwback with Glove Box Racing, throwing back to the Hooter scheme from the early 1990s. That truck looks very pretty for sure. When it comes to Glove Box Racing, they're also going to be having a bit of a contest amongst the drivers to decide who has the best paint scheme out of all the throwback schemes for tonight's action. Which scheme has really stood out to you the most, Davis?
Well, Justin, I've been looking a lot at my fantasy draft, so let's take a quick look. I mean, you got to love that throwback Jeff Gordon scheme with the 04 Sean Ryan.
And Sean Ryan, let's talk about him for a little bit. He's having, again, one of his strongest runs of the season. He and his entire group for that 04 machine has been getting stronger and stronger every single week, it seems, especially approaching the playoffs. Right now, Ryan looking for one of his few top fives in the second half of the season so far in the 04.
He is having a very strong run in that machine as he's going to come up behind the lap traffic of the 85 machine.
Yeah, he's still maybe backing off a little bit, it looks like, to Paul Bliss at the time being. Working with America Motorsports right now, his teammates will include Marshall Berry, of course, on the racetrack with that group, as well as Timmy Logwood Jr., who's had a very rough time, and Brandon Holder. But right now, again, things are very calm on the racetrack. The question is, how long are they going to stay calm? And when do you think now we see some drivers maybe elect to come into pits? And hold on one second, we might want to look at Sean Powell because his truck just became absolutely destroyed, it looks like, all of a sudden on the front and back ends. It might be apologies to that, might be just on my side as it just reset, I believe, itself to its normal setting. Apologies for that little set up there. Apparently it's showing up as well in the race spot feed. It looks like there at one moment he glitched out for a split second, just technical issue for a slight second, and then appeared to have the back and front ends damaged, but that I'm going to presume is very much cosmetic on the racetrack right now, so I don't think that's the main thing to really worry about for the time being. But everyone's really spread themselves out. It's a 9.5 second difference from first to third spot, a 16-second difference from first to eighth spot.
Yeah, the track is really spread out here. Still seeing those teammates stay up front, pretty much dominating this race. I mean, but then you go back to the 6th through 9th position, and it's pretty close quarters back there, Justin.
Yeah, it's starting to get pretty close again. Remember, they were a bit dicey at one point on the racetrack when it was a battle for around 8th spot. Then you had drivers starting to hit Darlington stripes. That involves the group of Scotty Ryan, Shield, Doc Stout, and Brad Neer. Brad Neer's falling back from that said group, but right now Ryan Shield and Doc Stout, they're having some very strong runs in terms of pace. They are right now up in the top 5 fastest trucks on the racetrack.
They are, Justin, very, very fast in those machines tonight, but yeah, still got them pretty much single filed out here. I mean, but it's still pretty exciting racing we're seeing. Every single lap, these drivers are just inching closer and closer to that ball, and now we're starting to look at that real tire fall off.
We've already seen one driver that was a lap down, and James Hickson pulling to the pits. Tyler Hayes appears to be off the racetrack as well, as we're going to look at the battle involving the number 24 as well as the number 31 machines on the track, and that is because I believe that is your caution. The 2 is upside down. James Torrey as the one flipping down the front stretch as the caution's out.
Cars flipping is never a good way to begin a sentence. It's hard wreck for those drivers.
And James Torrey might have had something go on. He got loose and then maybe had something with the steering column happen because he flipped upside down, and then compound the bad luck for Timothy Logwood Jr. He slams hard into him, as you see on the AMSOIL instant replay. I don't know what else to really say with that right there, because it was a mix, it looked like, of getting loose and just slamming the wall.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up, Justin, but I can't, so you're going to have to give these viewers some...
Yeah, it had to be a hardware because it got loose, but then hooked directly to the left, as you see from the steering column. So something happened to that number 2 machine in the Rusty Wallace Throwback that brings out the caution, the second one of the night so far. And his day might be done with the amount of contact he had to that hard wall on the inside.
Yeah, you're right. Heavy, hard contact, and yeah, that's never a way you want to end the day at Darlington.
And you know someone who's kicking themselves possibly here? Matt Kingsbury was in the pit lane at the time of the caution flag, I believe, in the number 21. So he's now a lap down, it appears, in terms of scoring on the racetrack. We'll have to take a waiver on. He was 18 laps down, rather, from the incidents that happened before. So things are really mixed on up on the racetrack in terms of some, because a couple drivers have started their pit stops. That puts them a lap down. Now the lead drivers are pulling into the pits.
Pit road caution yellow flag pit road action going on right now, and them drivers they're really praising that caution right there, because man, they were slipping and sliding all over the track.
And right now everyone trying to race off pit road, as you'll see the details. Sean Powell loses the lead to Mike Bruno. As Powell stays in there for an extra couple seconds, he'll fall back to second. Brent Keith will stay in third. Sean M. Ryan moves up to fourth, with Scotty Reinshield coming out of the pits in the top 5 for Gen X Racing.
It's close action battle right there, but hey, I'm really excited for this restart to see, especially with these drivers with fresher tires. Still had the first green flag run was decent. This was a pretty much longer green flag run, so we're gonna have to see how those drivers take to these new tires.
Yeah, and again, second caution of the day as we're on lap 65 of 183. And real quick, when it comes to, let's turn on your crew chief brain here, Davis. What do you do in terms of strategy if we stay green from here on out? How would you divide it? Do you go for maybe 3 stops or 2?
You got to go for 2 stops, a shorter amount of stops there, Justin.
The question is there enough flexibility?
Yeah, and I've always felt like, especially with pit road being like it is, at this track right here, you want to be on pit road as minimal as possible under green flag action, because it's so hard to not miss the pit road, and you can make it a mistake real quick.
Right now, things are still settling down in terms of the race order, because multiple drivers are getting their Darlington stripes peeled off the race car, if that kind of makes sense. You have drivers right now, Timothy McQueen finishing off repairs. You have Paul Bliss, who is a lap down. You have Tim Marlowe, who is up as high as in the top 10 getting repairs. Doug Lemons has also gotten some extra repairs, so a lot of drivers have been bouncing up and down the race order tonight in general because of some of these repairs and some of the luck that has come upon them with this new build tonight.
It is, and it's just all new. It's new to me, it's new to you, it's new to most of these drivers, except for, I'd say, Sean Powell and Mike T. Bruno. It's looking like it's coming second nature to them.
I have to agree a little bit there. We're at 1 to go. Bruno chooses the outside line for the restart, as Sean Powell will be on the inside. Brent Keith in that Dale Jr. throwback will start alongside the Jeff Gordon throwback of the 04 Ryan in row 2 for the restart. Ryan Shield will start alongside Brad Neer in row 3. And in the top 8 as well, Marshall Berry still. And John Verga in that Jimmy Spencer throwback has crept himself up to 8th. At times during that run, he was turning faster laps than the leader, in fact, in that 48.
Well, hey, he's getting some of that Jimmy Spencer experience right there in that number 48 machine. But hey, these boys are getting ready to double filed up. Is Brent Keith, Sean Ryan, Scotty Reinshield, do any of these drivers have what it takes to get past the number 19 and 41?
That's going to be the question. A lot can still happen. A long ways to go. We'll restart on lap 68. As the green flag's up on the stand, Mike Bruno leads them down to the front stretch as we're back on the way for the GBR Throwback 250 at Darlington.
And Mike T. Bruno gets that early lead. You've got side by side with the 04 Sean Ryan. Now the 04 Sean Ryan looks like he's losing grip. He's stuck on the top side and he can't get down.
He's losing a lot of momentum with this restart, but Neer clips the bottom of the apron. That might help him a bit. The question is, does Neer send it into turn 3? He does not, as Ryan falls back a couple spots to the 5th position on the racetrack with the bad restart. Keith will hold on to 3rd with Scotty Reinshield up to 4th, but don't look now. Here comes Marshall Berry in the 05 machine catching up to his teammate.
Of Marshall Berry coming in a hurry for that Jeff Gordon throwback at that 04 machine, but then the 27 of Scotty Reinshield. He's closing the gaps in too on that number 32 of Brent Keith.
And a scary moment just happened right as you were finishing up that sense with Mike Bruno up the racetrack because of lap traffic. They had to dodge Bobby Everhart as he exited the pits. Bruno had to go all the way down to the apron, and that almost caused trouble for the leader. He still picks up time, though, on the racetrack besides the point there, as you continue to look at Everhart drop on back.
He does. Everhart just continually to drop on back. Tough break for that driver right there, but I go back to the number 70 of Doug Lemons. He's still stuck in heavy traffic after starting in 3rd, now sitting in that 12th position.
He's already had to get damage repaired twice tonight so far, as he's right now trying to pick up some time on Sean Molsick right now up in front of him. This time by the stripe, he was actually slower than him on the overall lap time, as he's picking up some pace here with Doug Lemons. He's right now passing by lap traffic in Everett Lane. That's going to help him gain some extra time, but look at the swarm that's starting to build up for 7th, as Muir still has that damage on the right side of his Davey Allison throwback. Sponsored by LSR TV, that's really holding up Doc Stout, John Verga, as well as Keith Stewart, rather, along with Sean Molsick.
Yeah, and you can really see the gap between him and the other drivers. You can just see the freight train forming in behind him. These drivers have to stay easy, stay cool. They're going to end up causing a wreck and being a part of the caution.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where do you prefer to try and time up a pass maybe? Do you want to set it up for a straightaway, or if you say side by side and to say turn 1, what do you do here? We'll see what they decide to do here. Nier decides to just let up. Burt checks up. John Verga almost hits the back end of him as he has to check up on the bottom side. So Nier's going to hold on to the spot for now. Keith Stewart just decides to back out of it and gives up the 10th spot right behind him.
And if I was them, I'd be staying clear of that 48 with that Jimmy Spencer throwback. They don't want to end up with a black eye. If anyone got that reference, you're my hero.
We'll see who's your hero tonight, Davis, for sure. The always exciting Davis Richards, everybody. As Nier is getting a very strong run in turns 1 and 2. He's able to get himself at least a couple truck lengths away from John Verga. But here is where the difference is. John Verga's been much more stronger in 3 and 4 because he's been using the bottom line of the racetrack, while Nier's been trying to diamond it. Verga's been gaining some more time, though, when just riding along that dotted line through 3 and 4 compared to what Nier's doing.
You're right, and it's just like follow the leader, too. Find out where he's making the mistakes, and then be able to capitalize on them as well and see his line changing, especially with that much breathing room. You've got a little bit of time to change up your lines and see what works best for your truck.
And Verga starts to get the run on the bottom side. Nier tries to block while diving in the corner. They'll go Nier side by side into turn 1. Nier's not going to check up this time. Verga has to back off the gas to avoid pushing up, but here comes Sean Molsick on the high side. He'll try and get the run, gets the spot, just avoids tapping the wall in the Mark Martin throwback as he'll move up to 9th.
And I really like that throwback scheme of the 15 of Sean Molsick. And so you got Mark Martin, Jimmy Spencer all battling side by side. Man, it takes you back down memory lane.
And they're sandwiched between the Allisons from the Alabama game as they continue to work their way down the front stretch again. Doug Lemons has also joined the back of these trucks. He's going to try and make the move behind these guys on Keith Stewart. Doesn't do the move quite yet, but Stewart, the way he's been running, if he sees trouble, Stewart's been backing out of it immediately.
He has. He's been playing it safe, and we've seen that out of Keith. Well, we haven't seen that out of Keith Stewart. So this is something really new we're seeing, too. Maybe he's taking a different approach.
Either that or he's thinking, I want to be able to have the truck here until the finish. Because that was the mantra for many drivers last week through the overall iRacing service. I want to make it to the end of 183 laps. As they're side-by-side, meanwhile, for P8 on the racetrack. Going underneath Molsick, trying to get the pass on Brad Nier. They're side-by-side on the exit of turn 4. Nier going to hold on for now with the run on the high side. But the question is, for how long as they continue to dice things up for P8? They were starting to reel back in Doc Stout and Marshall Berry too, but now this is going to really help those drivers as Molsick still tries to find a way around Nier.
There's Molsick all over that back bumper. The 9 of Brad Nier almost gets him a bump going in the corner, but lets off that throttle.
Very intense action on the racetrack right now. In multiple different spots, you have the battle heating up for P8, and the battle's starting to heat up as well for P number 3 because it's down to under 0.2 of a second between Brent Keith along with Scotty Reinshield. Scotty Reinshield's up on the back door of Brent Keith. We'll keep an eye on both battles at the same time. As Scotty Reinshield, he's been able to get himself back up towards his high spot since the start of the race, as Keith will go and let him by on the bottom side.
see Keith Stewart then again just taking it easy, choosing his lines and choosing his battles early in the race. We're only at lap 81 of this race, 2 cautions so far, but yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of that 7 of Keith Stewart.
And now Scotty Reinshield makes it a 1-2-3 for Gen X Racing Trucks up at the front. He's 2.92 seconds behind his teammates in Bruno and Powell on the racetrack as they continue to just set their sights on trying to get themselves up forward. Let's look at that battle that's heating up still again that we were talking about. Brad Neer still holding on to the A spot behind these guys. Doc Stout has pulled away from them, as you'll see on the backdrop. The question is, how long can Neer hold on in that 9 truck with how he's been running, especially on the exits where he's almost tank slapping the wall.
And you've got to do that too, Justin. You've pretty much almost got to tank slap that wall.
I think you don't want to tank slap the wall to get a Darlington stripe, though. They do call this the Lady in Black for a reason with how difficult this course is. As you look at Low Line Racing's Sean Mosak once again in the nice spot. Gets the run on the bottom side, but Neer able to get that touch bit faster. Mosak had to let off the gas. He's getting to as high as 175 towards the braking zone into turn number 3. Everyone now from 7th all the way to Keith Stewart, who is currently in 11th. They're separated by about 2 truck lanes.
It's a very close battle between these drivers right here, and I think that's where that competitiveness and that with the new setups, you don't really know where to go with the setups. These drivers right here, we're seeing it right here, and that was so close together.
And that was very close. Sean Mosak had to really bob his way away from the wall, along with John Verga, who almost followed his arrow directly into the outside wall. But guess what? Brad Neer's going to get the run on the bottom side, trying to pass by Doc Stout in the number 62. He doesn't get the job done for now, as he's now got himself some breathing room for Mosak as he'll try and get himself up to 7th.
And you see the lap traffic just getting out of the way right there, pulling over to the side. But then, yeah, we're still side by side with Doc Stout and the number 9 of Brad Neer. And then now you've got the 15 of Sean Mosak.
And I think Doc Stout's truck is starting to fade off now as he lets by Brad Neer. He's stuck on the outside of Mosak. Will he break in early to try and let Mosak go? He's going to try and contest the spot. They can make contact. Doc Stout rubs against the wall. Sean Mosak moves down the racetrack. And Sean Mosak will drop all the way down to 12th in the running order after that contact.
So it just shows quickly how much things can turn here at Darlington.
And Doc Stout made some rubbed against the wall rather to add a small Darlington stripe to his truck. John Verga continues to be the fastest truck on the racetrack outside the Gen X machines. So he's now trying to maybe hope that he can get by quickly as they try and dodge their way around the 71 and do so.
And lap traffic is playing such a big factor in tonight's race. And then the 62 of Doc Stout is still under heavy contest. It looks like the 48 almost slaps the wall.
Yeah, almost tapped the wall, but he gets by Doc Stout. Keith Stewart also tries to jump by, but breaks in early to allow Doc Stout to get back into rhythm. So Doc Stout drops back to 9th. But we should look at what's going up at the front because it's down to less than a 1/10 of a second between Mike Bruno and Sean Powell. Sean Powell has reeled him back in.
Sean Powell reeling back in his teammate of Mike T. Bruno. We've been on a longer run here. Now we're going to have to see what he can do and if he has the longer run truck.
When it comes to Mike Bruno, historically on some tracks, he has been better on the short run. But once it gets to around that 25-30 lap range, starts to fall off of the Gen X Racing trucks. Now, Sean Powell, who's a bit better in terms of long run, is back on the back end. This time by, Mike Bruno was a touch faster, but the previous lap, Powell had been 0.2 of a second quicker than Mike Bruno.
You're right. It's going to see what's going to happen. He's within a 1/10 of a second. He's right on his rear bumper.
Trying to find any way to get around as he'll go to the bottom side. Bruno going to go side by side with his teammate. Can Powell get the run on the bottom side? Powell pushes down as he'll try and move away from his teammates. So Mike Bruno will keep the spot for now. trying to avoid contact with the number 19 development driver. And look at the run now from Sean Powell coming down the backstretch. This is still heating on up. Powell gets the run, Bruno lets him by, and Sean Powell retakes the lead for Gen X Racing.
Gen X Racing, Pope looking very tough with their two drivers up front. And that 41 of Sean Powell just slides by the 19 of Mike T. Bruno. I don't think Mike T. Bruno racing too hard, especially with it being this early in the race and with them both being teammates.
I think that's kind of the thing. You don't want to wreck your teammate. That's kind of unwritten rule number one in all forms of motorsports. So Bruno will just continue to try and keep himself up the pace. Let's look at the movers and goers so far tonight. Sean M. Ryan's gained 17 spots to run in the top 5 so far. The most spots gained so far by far on the track. Tied for second is Stewart and Patterson with a gain of 14.
Yes, a bunch of drivers being able to come up through the field. Look at, like you said, Sean Ryan starting in the 22nd position. Now he's sitting in the top 5. Keith Stewart starting the 23rd and the 9th position. So some of these drivers, they've been able to really make themselves throughout the field. And it doesn't look like they have too much noticeable damage.
And just outside that top 15, you have the drivers that have lost the most spots. It's currently a tie for multiple spots for 7 lost spots. But due to trouble, Matt Kingsbury's lost 13 since the drop of the green flag. Ray elected to go into the pits on lap 2 to end off his day early. That's a loss of 24. So that technically does not count in that case. But a lot of drivers have lost a lot of spots, almost double-digit loss totals that have put now just 16 drivers on the lead lap.
And I think if we keep seeing these long green flag runs, we're going to keep seeing more and more of these lap down drivers coming in. What was it, the week before or last week? We only had 2 drivers. Hold on 1 second.
You just seen something happen on your screen. Doc Stout, I believe, almost made contact with the wall and then had the checkup, allowing, it looks like, the 5 of Brandon Holder on by. So Doc Stout's all the way back all of a sudden to 13th spot. So something happening to Doc Stout, because remember, he was around that top 8. Let's look at your Amso instant replay to see what just happened to him down the backstretch. I don't know in that case if he was just letting by Brandon Holder, who's in 11th spot, or if Doc Stout has a problem. Remember, he scrubbed the wall before and is falling off quick.
He is. He's falling off real quick, too. He's watching that Amsoil instant replay right now. And, yeah, just lost a bunch of positions right there. But maybe just misjudged the entry to the corner.
Or more so maybe the exit. Because, again, turn 2 just comes up on you so quick. Where you either so tight you smack the wall, or you do what Doug Lemons in front of you does. You get so loose that you have to use that big apron on the bottom to avoid making contact with the outside wall or spinning out, as Sean Molsnack does the same thing in turn number 4. Doc Stout will pass on by him to move himself back up to 12.
Yep, Doc Stout able to take advantage of the 15 of Sean Molsack, and Sean Molsack was having a pretty decent run, but it looks like his truck is really falling off after this long green flag run.
And everyone's heads are on a swivel at this point too, because Scotty Reinshield has just dropped to 5th spot after getting up to 3rd as well. So his truck is dropping off with the Gen X Ray in that number 27 machine, rather, driving the Amsoil truck again to throw back to one of the Snickers machines as he tries to run himself forward. But he's been dropping back, it looks like, for the past couple of laps all of a sudden in terms of where he's been running in terms of times. In the past couple laps, fell to the 31-second bracket for laps 94-95.
Oh, we've got a wreck right there. The 16 and 62 with Doc Stout goes spinning into the inside wall.
And trouble, it's on the backstretch. Doc Stout's day goes from bad to worse. Let's look at your Amso instant replay. Remember, he was tied for 17th in the point standings coming into tonight.
And his engine is blown up.
Yeah, there's that tight issue where if you hit it at the wrong spot, you do exactly that. You smack the inside wall as hard as that is, and you will not get a caution if you're as low as you are on the track.
Yeah, it's a tough break for the 62 Doc Stout, just having such a good race till about lap 50 or so. Then he just found himself getting in trouble.
A huge bad break there. Question is, how significant will be that engine damage would be the engine damage that takes 6 minutes, or will it be the one that ends off your day essentially for 31? Meanwhile, as this is all going on, the battle for 7th has continued to heat on up because Brad Neer has allowed John Verga and Keith Stewart back into the mix. Keith Stewart will just back away, knowing that Brad Neer has been very defensive in terms of this position with John Verga.
Yeah, and we've got to be getting close to green flag pit stops too, Justin.
Yeah, they have been running for a very long time for this green flag run. The last time, remember, they started this green flag run on lap 68. We're on lap 101. So we are currently more than 35 plus laps into this run. And remember, the window's going to start opening up. The question is, who will short pit and who will go towards an empty tank here?
A short pit's your best bet, especially with the tire fall off that we have here at Darlington. You got to be thinking short pit, short pit, short pit. At least that's what I would if I was within that 32 machine of Brent Keith or Sean Ryan.
What number are you thinking in your head to try and pit in? What lap would you rather pit in, especially as, say, you're John Verga and you've been stuck behind Brad Neer for about 15-20 laps now, as he's going to try and change that but backs off again.
Well, how long were you saying the green flag run was?
Remember, it started on lap 68. We're on lap 103, so that's 35 laps even.
Be going in around that 40 to 45 lap range.
So that would be around lap 113. You'd be looking towards around lap 113 and maybe just enough to be safe around lap 118 as John Verga makes a touch of contact with Neer, still trying to add pressure to the back end of that number 9 machine, telling him, I want to go. Please let me go.
Yeah, he is, Justin. He's just got to go. But, I mean, this is what a good opportunity was. Stay behind him for a couple laps, and then you take that, my mic keeps falling down, is you take that early green flag pit stop, and then you're able to come out of him on the exit of pit road.
Yeah, but again, you got to remember there's huge amounts of fall off here. The question is, will that become the factor? John Verga tries to get a run again on Neer meanwhile, and again checks up. So 3 laps in a row, he's gotten to run off the exit of 4, but has not forced the issue to dive it into turn 1 because of how you take the line here with these trucks.
Yeah, it's just all about that line. How close can you get to that wall without hitting it? Is looking right here.
Speaking of touching it, Brad Neer just hit the wall. Adds a Darlington stripe. He'll lose 2 spots and fall back to 9. So John Verga's probably celebrating to himself. He's up to 7th and has clean air for the first time in about 15-20 laps.
All right, Justin, you said Darlington stripe. That's another shot.
Yeah, that is an error one. And John Verga has a huge amount of contact. Keith Stewart runs into the back of him. And a significant event for John Verga as he tank slapped the wall on the exit. Let's look at your AMSOIL instant replay to show just that.
Taking a look, and man, Keith Stewart was having such a good race.
Yeah, Keith Stewart had been patient all day, backing off any sort of traffic. And for the first time, trying to maybe make a move, runs into the back of Verga as he slaps the wall. Destroys his front end, possible engine damage to his number 7 machine. So that is bad luck for Keith Stewart by far, who is trying to play the long game today.
Yeah, he was being so patient. But that just goes to show you how quick things can change here at Darlington.
For sure on the track, you can see Stewart with that damage. Going to have to let by multiple trucks. Brandon Holder, we haven't talked much about him in the number 5, goes on by along with Doug Lemons. Also along with the 24, who has now pit and opened up said pit window. We got trouble in turn 4. Scotty Reinshield gets loose on the racetrack and almost collapsed Marshall Berry and Sean M. Ryan. And a close call situation. Let's look at the replay for that, presented by AMSOIL, the First in Synthetics. Oh. Yeah, I think he tapped the wall in 3 and 4, and that almost collected Berry in a close quarters race. That could have taken out 2 America Motorsports trucks at once.
Yeah, man, the 27 machine, he looks pretty beat up out there.
Yeah, now, remember, he started on the outside of the front row. He has lost 4 spots since the drop of the green flag. and continues to just drive on backwards with the amount of damage that continues to build up on his machine tonight, sponsored by Amsoil. And Sean M. Ryan, meanwhile, almost at the same amount of contact, but is able to keep the spot for now. So these tires are starting to get to where they're getting very slippery or tight.
In the wall again.
You're seeing it right now on board as he tank slaps the wall again. The Darlington Stripe has a lot of friends tonight on that 27, so he'll fall way on back from the 5th spot. So he's at least got some time away from P number 7 with John Verga, about 3 seconds still.
Yes, yeah, so these drivers, man, they got to be thinking, when are they going to come to pit road? It's got to be any lap now, because you're just seeing them slap that wall lap after lap.
Yeah, and let's talk about John Verga for a second, because remember, he's been one of the faster trucks on the track. Guess what, though? Brad Muir found his way around after that hard amount of contact. So, for John Verga, it's going to be, again, trying to get back into rhythm after making such a hard amount of contact, remember, at a turn 2.
It is. It's going to be a tough race for them. In the 48 in the wall, and now we're starting to see some drivers go down pit road. Or was that lap traffic? I couldn't quite see.
That was a pit stop from Brandon Holder on the lead lap. Remember, we talked about this a little bit. Everett F. Lane had pulled in to fall a lap down. Now we have Brandon Holder also a part of the pit stop club so far. So the pit window is open at Darlington, right on the money when you said lap 113.
Wow, I was actually right for once.
Yes, you were. You absolutely were today. Hey, but either way, this means now we're going to see a lot of drivers maybe pull down the pit lane. The question is, when will we see the lead drivers come into pit? Because you still have Powell running in the 37s, as well as many drivers still running in the early 31s. But then you have the back half of the top 11 still on the lead lap who are down to the 32s.
Those leaders have got to be coming, but they've got some room to negotiate with too, as they have a heavy lead over the other drivers. So I'd say within the next 5 or so laps, we'll see him go down pit road.
Here's Mike Bruno. Remember, he was leading at the time of the restart and led for about 20 straight laps before letting his teammate Sean Powell by. Since then, he's fallen like a rock. You see the totals on lap 113 to lap 14, about 0.2 on average a lap slower than Powell.
Yes, he is. So pay close attention to these lap times here. Is I just got to think the leader's going to be coming as the 7 machine of Keith Stewart. What happened there? Did he miss pit road?
No, I think he's just letting drivers by, because this is one of the common things with Darlington, everybody, where if you're a lap truck, a lot of drivers go and just ride along the bottom of the apron to avoid any error incidents, to just try and finish off the race. I think that's what Keith Stewart is just trying to do at this point. And now this time he's going to go in and pit. So you might be right on missing the pit lane as he now matches into the commitment cone, makes it underneath the yellow line and comes into pit. And wrong time for him. The caution flag is out. Trying to search where it is, and it's Marshall Berry in the 05.
Tough break again there for Keith Stewart.
Yeah, here's the Amsoil replay as Berry hit the outside wall in the Century 21 machine, takes a tumble and falls to where it triggers the caution on the backstretch. Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, we knew what was going to happen.
He might have got some help there, too. Look at that with Everett F. Lane on the beat right behind him in the 24. Remember, Lane was the first to pit on the freshest tires at one point. Here's the view from the low-line racing Richard Petty throwback. And yes, he got some help there. Well, I talked a bit about the closing rate at Darlington comparable to Bristol by some. There's the perfect example of the closing rate right there. And right now, continuing to get things together, pit stops are going to get underway at Darlington. Sean Powell has been the class of the field so far tonight in that Jeff Burton throwback in the number 41. At this point, the only thing that can stop him is a string of bad luck, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right, too, Justin.
You see everyone pulling into the pits. Remember, the pit window was open. The drivers that hurts the most, though, were drivers like Paul Bliss, who was at the first car on lead lap down, Brandon Holder, who pit, Keith Stewart, who fell a lap down just on that cycle. So multiple drivers having some tough breaks in terms of timing because of when that caution came out. Sean Ryan will lose a couple spots as he overran his pit box by about a second and a half as everyone makes their stops.
And well, you know who else is going to go to a stop? That's going to be us, as we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right with you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Darlington Raceway for more coverage of the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250. As you've been watching this coverage on RaceSpotTV, a lot of action. Justin Prince alongside Davis Richards. Hugo Ruiz is in the director's seat tonight for what has been a wild amount of racing so far this evening here at Darlington, South Carolina. We're coming straight out of the pit stop cycle as Mike Bruno has retaken the lead at Darlington Raceway. We're at 1 to go as Sean Powell is back to second. Once again, Bruno has chosen the outside line. But here's the interesting thing, Davis. When we restart, we're going to be just inside the fuel window. These drivers, if they can stretch it, are right at where they can make it from here on out.
They are, but I don't think, man, that's going to be really hard. We're definitely going to get, if these drivers go out the entire race without pitting, then we're definitely going to see a caution with as crazy as these tires are.
Speaking of crazy, let's see how this restart goes. Mike Bruno and his teammate Sean Powell are off and away, and we're back under green once again at Darlington Raceway. Lap 122, 63 down to 62 laps to go on the track. But look at the start from Brent Keith. He's going to lose a spot to Ryan as he was sent sideways a bit on the entry of one. Ryan Shue will get the run on the high side as they make contact. Keith is pushed down the racetrack. He'll come back up as Doug Lemons lets him back into line.
It lets them back into line. Now they get single file, but you still got some drivers in the back with the 9 of Brad Neer. All over the 05 of Marshall Berry. So that's the 70 of Doug Lemons.
Yeah, Doug Lemons right now trying to gain some time. We have just 9 drivers, believe it or not, on the lead lap after the timing of the caution flag. Everett F. Lane and Marshall Berry had gone the end of longest lines. You see Lane trying to duck on out. So is right now Lemons trying to duck underneath of Brent Keith. But don't look now, Brad Neer is still coming. As Lemons gets loose, he's going to let by Brad Neer to move Neer up to 6th.
And Neer is climbing through the field, and the 70 of Doug Lemons just keeps falling back with heavy damage on that machine.
I think with that, it wasn't damage. It was more of getting loose off turn 4 because Lemons has repaired just about all the damage on that number 70 machine so far here tonight with the amount of time he's been able to spend on pit road. Look at some of the drivers still beat on up. Ryan Lange, he's right now the first driver scored a lap down on the racetrack and fighting for the lucky dog and trying to keep guys like John Verga between him and Paul Bliss. And you continue to follow along with Lange trying to keep away. Again, this is the battle for the lucky dog. Verga is the last car on the lead lap. Wedge between him and Bliss. Remember as well, Brandon Holder, who was a part of the early pitter strategy, is also trying to get himself back onto the lead lap via waiver, trying to get the lucky dog rather than trying to risk staying on old tires as Holder makes the pass on Bliss.
Holder's able to make that pass on the number 85 machine of Paul Bliss and almost gets sucked into the wall right there. But now he's going to set his sights off at the 31 of Ryan Lange. And then you still got the 48 of John Verga and that Jimmy Spencer's throwback scheme. He almost gives him a tap in the rear bumper.
Yeah, it looked like Verga got a huge run through turn 4, but had to slam the brakes to avoid running over the back end of Lange. Remember, Lange is trying to keep Verga behind him to try and give himself a cushion to Brandon Holder. Here's the view up in front of Lange. Here's the view behind him as they're starting to build on up. And you can see how they're starting to close in as Paul Bliss is ducking into the pit lane. Remember that bit of contact slightly? Looks like Paul Bliss might add an extra Darlington stripe. And I think I see the reasoning here because he slid down into the pit lane, avoided contact with the wall, in fact, through turn 3. That is why he ducked into the pit lane, burning up the tires. You'll see it right now on your AMSO instant replay. And my goodness, Davis. Just able to save that truck. I wonder if he originally wanted to pit there at the last second.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was pretty impressive nonetheless of what he was able to do. Yeah, it looked like he was coming to pit road right there. Might have had a black flag or a penalty, but it looked like he was trying to go to pit road.
And that's your AMSO instant replay. AMSO, the first in synthetics. Right now, the AMSO machine, driven by Scotty Reinshield, is trying to hold on to third spot as he's currently battling with Sean M. Ryan. They'll pass by Bliss, rather, as he pulls his way out of the pit lane. But right now, you have to be impressed with the way Ryan's been driving tonight, having a very strong campaign. Now having Bliss between them in the battle going on with Brent Keith for the top 5 with Doug Lemons.
It is Doug Lemons been able to make his way back up to that 6th position. Now he's got his eyes set on the 32 of Brent Keith, but he's got a hot and heavy 9 of Brad Neer following close by as these drivers are pretty much closed in together. It's the best battle we've got on the track right now.
Yeah, right now, Doug Lemons, he's been having a yo-yo of a night so far. Lost 3 spots since the drop of the green flag after giving himself a Darlington stripe during the first green flag run. Dropped back after getting some repairs and has been trying to work his way through the grid. Now has had the best track position to try and get himself some spots and back into the top 5 as he looks to try and get that high key in that Glove Box Racing number 32.
Pay close attention to see what he's able to do here in that machine. Because, man, there's still some pretty close battles right here. Now we're about 10-15 laps on a green flag run. So now we're going to see what these tires do and how these drivers are able to handle it.
Remember, we restarted with 62 laps to go as Paul Bliss is going sideways. Paul Bliss is off the racetrack as that's going to end off his day. Here's your AMSO instant replay. This is something we haven't had to discuss too much with the Espeed Contender series in recent months. The 11 incident cap limit. I think Bliss just reached it.
Yeah, he did. He makes contact there with the Jeff Gordon throwback scheme, and he just got kicked out of the track.
And that is going to hurt Bliss a lot because remember, he was in that tight battle for the 18th spot in the point standings. Some of the lucks, though, the drivers around him for that spot have had a yo-yo of a day. Doc Stout's blown an engine, but the one thing that he's got to keep his eye on, does Ryan Lange also have trouble as we look still at that battle with Keith and Lemons.
Keith and Lemons still going at it here, and man, Lemons still able to make it up to that 6th position. Now he's just riding really quiet behind that 32 of Brent Keith. It looks like he's faster than him too.
I think he is now too, because last time by, Lemons was a 1/10 of a second faster despite having Keith in front of him. The question is, where will Lemons make the pass, especially with how challenging it is to time something up unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake?
It's very challenging. You've got to be able to set up the corner. You've got to be able to set up the corner, know when the driver's kind of foresee when he's going to make that mistake so you can make the move. Because if you just try to go with him head on, you're just going to burn way too much tire wear.
That, or you're going to make contact, Davis, as well. As you've seen him lose some time, in fact, on the exit of 1 and 2. And he's now starting to lose some ground. Look who's reeling him in. Brad Neer is reeling him in because Lemons is the one making mistakes rather than forcing Keith to make mistakes.
It is, and it looked like he was taking it easy, but you just make that one mistake, and then it just takes a long time to get your rhythm back together.
Speaking of looking, let's look at the battle for the lead, because again, Sean Powell has chased down his teammate Mike Bruno. He's let Bruno lead about 10, 12, 14 laps now since the drop of the green flag once again. With 46 laps to go, Sean Powell wants to reclaim that first spot in the AMSOIL machine. You see him right on the back to bumper of Bruno. The question is, does Bruno let him by now that you're right on what could be the last green flag run of the race?
And we've seen this time and time again throughout the race. It looks like Sean Powell's got the stronger long-run car, and then Bruno has the best short-run car. But now Sean Powell is breathing heavy down his back, and it's going to be a matter of time before he makes that move.
Yeah, Powell really pushes his way through turns 1 and 2. Bruno will try and diamond off the exit. Powell, though, is that very touch faster, really in the draft of Mike Bruno. Bruno will move to the high side. Powell cuts to the bottom side alongside the apron. Can Powell get side by side with his teammate? No, he cannot. Sean Powell's trying to mix up the lines, but just can't get there quite yet.
He's not quite able to make that move yet. Now he's just saving a little bit of tires, but he's still breathing heavy down his back. Seeing when he's going to make that move. The 19 of Mike T. Bruno still got about a 1 trunk length advantage, but look, the 41 looks low. Is he going to make the move quite yet? No, he's not, but he is using a lower line than the 19 of Bruno. And Bruno actually hits the wall.
Yes, he does. Mike Bruno taps the wall. Sean Powell will take the lead with 43 laps to go at Darlington. And right there is why some drivers like to use the bottom more, because of how tight you can get from riding that high line.
Yeah, that's why I like to use the bottom line too, but that faster line is so much faster, but that bottom line has so much more security.
And Sean Powell is back up in the lead by about 3/10 of a second. We look back to the battle with Brad Neer. He's been able to get by Doug Lemons. So Doug Lemons is starting to have a problem after having a first good 10-15 laps since the drop of the green flag for this restart.
So he's got that more short run car. He's just falling back through the field. He's waiting to get those those fresh tires on that machine. But yeah, he's definitely got more of a short run car, and that could be the damage affecting him too, that longer run. Oh, and the 9 of Brad Neer in the wall.
And Brad Neer continues to just tap that wall at Darlington stripe after Darlington stripe, as he's gotten most of that fixed as the race has gone in terms of the right front damage, which is why Neer's been getting faster and faster to be able to set up these passes. But he continues to play with fire, I think, with the way he's running his line, as he almost tapped the wall again.
He did. He's definitely playing with fire right now, but that 70 of Doug Lemons gets the run on the bottom, can't quite make it, and decides to get back in line.
Lemons will try and time up the pass, get some help because Neer will try and let Lemons by, and Doug Lemons will make the spot as they dodge Brandon Holder, who had brought up puffs of smoke down the front stretch after slamming the front stretch wall. This was right as this pass was going on. Brandon Holder losing a lot of speed. Still remember a lap down in 12. Slammed the inside wall right on the previous lap as that pass was going on that you see on the screen.
It is. You're watching it right here.
No. Right now we're still looking at the live action to correct you there, Davis, but that is a lot of damage, and just again bad luck with Brandon Holder, where he's lost a lot of time and has a very damaged truck. It looks like, especially the rear end.
Yeah, he is. Man, just we've seen it time and time again. That outside wall just keeps bouncing people. Heavy contact with other drivers, and it's starting to slowly affect them now.
And you know who's in the driver's seat in case there's a caution with the way the tires wear out here? Ryan Lange is still in position for the Lucky Dog in 10th spot. Right now, John Verga is the next car up on the racetrack, 19 seconds back of the leader. That is 29 seconds in total from where Lange is at on the course. As you can see, Lange, you can see he's about even, in fact, with right now with John Verga in terms of lap times in that number 31 machine. It's just about getting a lucky caution, which can come any certain amount of time at this racetrack, as Doug Lemons is back up to P number 6 because, again, he's around Brad Meador.
He is, and he's still falling. There's still about a 2 truck length advantage between them, so it's going to take him a couple laps to get caught back up. But Sean Powell's been able to get that lead up to about half a second over the number 19 of Mike T. Bruno.
Yeah, Sean Powell up to 0.6 of a second in front of this battle. Again, this is the battle for 5th spot on the racetrack. Lemons last time by was 0.2 of a second faster than the number 32 machine on the racetrack. So Lemons is coming in that Doug's Auto machine.
It is that number 70 machine still closing in about half a second, 0.4 of a second behind the 32, but that 9 of Brad Meador is about another 0.4 of a second. So these drivers are evenly separated between each other.
Here's the thing, how long are they going to be evenly separated on the racetrack? Because Doug Lemons again is coming into the corners much later, braking, trying to close up to Brent Keith. He loses some time on the exit, as you see on the racetrack, but is able to still gain about a half a truck length at the very least every time he does it, compared to what Brent Keith is doing. Plus, he's got some luck coming up with Everett F. Lane going to be on the bottom side as lap traffic. That helps out him as Lemons gets the one behind of Keith. He's now back behind him by just 3/4 of a truck length.
And look how close he follows in behind that 32 machine. He pretty much nails that gap, and now he's just the 32 is one mistake away, and he almost makes that mistake.
Very close again to making said mistake. Last time by, Lemons 38.8, Keith 30.9. So Keith is just trying to hold on as long as he can. Lemons will tap the wall meanwhile, and so that will lose him some momentum and add another stripe to the number 70. A very minor amount of damage, but again, lost amount of momentum there. That will take about a lap to try and gain on back, as Keith almost did the same thing out of 4.
He did. You see, those tires are really starting to wear off for these drivers. It's almost hitting the wall, and Lemons almost hits it again. So the Darlington strop is out to get you right now, as they're on the second longest green flag run of the night. And man, you can really see it in the way these drivers are driving these trucks.
31 laps to go as the leader passes the start and finish line. Brent Keith trying to hold on to a top 5 finish for Glovebox Racing in the Glovebox Racing Throwback 250. As Doug Lemons trying to channel his inner Brett Bodine and gain up in that number 70 machine. Trying to find any way he can again to catch up to Keith. They're separated on the racetrack by 0.3 of a second in closing.
And the 32 of Brent Keith, he goes high for a second. Now he's still using that middle lane, goes up to the top of the corner. Now he's going to come back down low, and look at the momentum he pulls on the 70 of Doug Lemons.
And Doug Lemons again losing some momentum, losing some time. that is going to lose him 0.2 of a second because of that last momentum. And while this is going on, Brad Neer's gaining behind them from behind, and they're starting to catch up, in fact, to Sean M. Ryan in front of these guys. Look at the lap time after that last momentum on that last lap. 0.4 of a second gain by Brad Neer.
It is. Brad Neer, too, he's watching these drivers' battles, and he knows it, so if he's got any grip left, now's the time to use it.
Yeah, this is going to start heating up. This is going to turn into a battle for 4th spot in the next 5 laps because, again, right in front of these guys, if you look back to the 04 machine, he's going to be looking back to his mirror where Brent Keith is on the racetrack. He's right now in the center of 3 and 4. These guys are entering that same spot. Doug Lemons still trying to fight for that real estate away from Brent Keith. And he just can't find that set opening to get himself into the open house and to buy that real estate to buy himself a top 5.
Yeah, he really can't. And he's just, man, they're just pretty much so evenly matched here that it's hard to call. And then that 32 of Brent Keith, now he's got the afterburners on, and he just really gains that lead over the 70 of Doug Lemons.
And Lemons is trying to get himself back into a rhythm because, again, Darlington's such a very rhythmatic track where if you battle too much, it can break said rhythm. Everett F. Lane, who is a lap down, reminder, is just into the pit lane. So the question is, will some drivers maybe go into the pits and try and maybe scramble things up? But remember, we're just inside, just barely in the fuel window for the race.
We are, so I don't think we're going to be able to make it on a one stop. I think they are going to be able to make it on one stop. I don't think they're going to be able to make it on a 0 stop. I think they're definitely going to have to come in for fuel.
Yeah, remember, 62 laps was the run. Some drivers might have to start saving with the amount of time we've had in this run as Keith continues to try and hold off Doug Lemons. Lemons is back into his rhythm, gets the run off of turn number 2, and closes it down to, again, a half a truck length advantage. He's trying to get himself towards the back of Keith, able to get it down to the back bumper. Keith is using the defensive line. Keith moves up the racetrack. Lemons, again, cannot get enough of a run off the straightaways to be able to get anything going on Brent Keith. He's going to have to force him to make a mistake at this point with the amount of how long they've been battling.
He is, or just take it easy. Ride right behind him. Wait till he makes that mistake. Don't go after him. Let him make that mistake for you.
And look at where Ryan is. They are closing in on him lap by lap. This time by the stripe, Sean M. Ryan in that Jeff Gordon throwback turned a 30.8. Keith ran a 30.6. So they are gaining about 0.2 of a second on the back end of that 04 machine.
Yeah, so even with their battle, and they're still being able to catch that 04 Sean Ryan. That 04 Sean Ryan is just by himself, and he's losing that much time. Doesn't look like he has too severe damage on that machine either.
And here's the separation between the two of them right now, about 0.7 of a second as they continue to battle it out for the spot for the top 5. So right now, Keith continuing to try and focus on getting up to Ryan while making sure he doesn't open up the door for Lemons as Lemons almost hits the wall again, but is able to just avoid it.
He is. He's still riding behind that 32 of Brent Keith. Look at the run he gets on the entry of the corner, but then on the exit, the 32 of Brent Keith. He's usually able to spread out between them, but on that time he doesn't, as Doug Lemons is still heavy on that back bumper, and he's going to make a move here within the next few laps.
It may appear to that, but again, one mistake can completely throw that chance out the window. As Lemons gets the runoff to he needs. Can he get underneath Brent Keith right here? This is his closest chance. Keith's going to break early and let by Doug Lemons as Doug Lemons is back into the top 5.
Doug Lemons made that pass look easy too, and now he's going to set his sights on the 04 Sean Ryan.
Ryan, with all that shuffling, is back to an 0.8 of a second advantage in front of them for the 4th spot. This is all 11 seconds back to the leader and Sean Powell, who continues to lead and have the fastest laps by far on the racetrack. You see how much he's been able to pull his way through lap traffic and away from his teammate in Mike Bruno. Tonight, with 20 laps to go, it's been basically since the drop of the green flag, the Sean Powell show.
Yeah, but I don't think we're done seeing cautions here yet.
I don't think so either. The question is, will we see that happen? Here's the times with Mike Bruno, for comparison's sake, losing a 1/10 of a second to his teammate. So again, remember, Mike Bruno's been better on the pit exits. So if there's a caution, Mike Bruno would move into the driver's seat for a chance to win this race.
He would move into that driver's seat, but will we see that caution? I think we will see it, but when do we see it is the question. For that 41 of Sean Powell right now, he's absolutely showing out with almost a 3-second lead.
Let's look back at the battle again for 4th spot, because guess who's caught him? Doug Lemons is saying hello to Jeff Gordon. Brett Bodine will just go to the bottom side. They'll go side by side as Sean M. Ryan will surrender the spot. Doug Lemons up to 4th, the highest he's been since the drop of the green flag tonight.
So we've seen him fall off at the beginning, at the middle of the run, and now at the end of the run, he's really showing his strengths against these other drivers.
And now the question is, can he catch up to Scotty Reinshield? That's the next spot he can gain to break up that 1-2-3 that's going on with Gen X Racing. That's going to be the main question. Meanwhile, you see with Ryan, he is falling backwards now, looking like he's starting to fall off because Brent Keith is reeling him again. Remember, before the pass by Lemons, Keith was still gaining 0.2 of a second a lap on average.
He was, so we're going to have to pay close attention here as we get to the ending laps of this race. Still have about, I don't know,
trouble.
15,
this might be the caution flag. Timothy McQueen pounds the inside wall at the 33. Too low to draw that caution flag, but his truck is destroyed in the Alan Kowicki throwback. His day is done as he'll go poof in a smoke of dust, as we'll see on the Amsoil instant replay. Wow. Just wow there, it looks like. Just lost it on the straightaway, because that can happen at Darlington depending on your setup.
Yeah, it can, and I'm really shocked that didn't bring out a caution, but he was off of the racing groove, so I think we're going to see that again. Yeah,
that time does not draw the caution. Question is, when will it said happen? As that's going to end off McQueen's night. He was as high as 12th before the caution flag, before that hit rather. So that's going to ruin what could have been a top 15 run for McQueen. Meanwhile, Sean M. Ryan, as that's gone on, has spread himself a little bit of breathing room to keep about a half a second for the time being compared to the 32.
Yeah, he has about a half a second lead between the two, but that 32 still showing good pace, but their lap times are about even. What I'm really interested right now, too, is to see if Doug Lemons can catch Scotty Reinshield, because Lemons is running about 0.2 faster a lap.
Yeah, gaining a lot of time, and I think something just happened to Marshall Berry, because there were a puff of smoke down the front stretch, and Berry is off the racetrack. So we're down to just 7 drivers on the lead lap. After this Amsoil replay shows, his day was done via the Darlington stripe.
It was, just hits that wall too hard, and his truck said, hey, I've had enough, and just gives up on him.
Yeah, looking at the scoring pylon as that 0.6 of a second gap still shrinks slowly but surely for Brent Keith, trying to finish in the top 5 for his team, because remember, this is the glove box racing Throwback 250. He is right now the furthest in terms of his team up in the running order on the racetrack.
He is. So it looks like he's gotten some of that extra practice in, but speaking of that too, though, I'm really liking how these cars are
trouble.
handled.
Ryan hits the wall. Keith is going to pass on by him and move up to 5th spot. So Sean M. Ryan makes a mistake, and that will lose him that 5th spot in a possible top 5.
Yeah, and you just can't make those mistakes this late in the race, especially when you've ran such a clean race.
Yeah, that is one of the first times I think he's really made contact at all with the wall tonight. With 11 laps to go, not when you want to make contact and add that stripe. And look at the right front. Now that's all puffed in, so that's going to possibly hurt him. The only bright spot is that he's got right now about a second plus advantage. In fact, almost 2 seconds to Brad Neer.
It is. He does have that length advantage over Brad Neer in that number 9 machine. But still, Doug Lemons, though, still, his times have really evened up with Scotty Reinshield in that 27. So maybe he's still holding some back, but it's going to, I don't know, it's going to take some pretty fast lap times for him to catch that 27.
And you see the circle there to show what we're talking about with that. That is a lot of aerodynamic damage with these trucks where it can be the difference for about 3-4 miles per hour down the straightaway. That's why we keep bringing it up so much when drivers get the damage with these trucks.
Oh man, Hugo, I'm really liking the new techniques we got there with the yellow circle and really able to highlight the damage and show these viewers exactly what we're talking about.
Moving this broadcast into 2026, everybody. As right now, Ryan, despite that, is keeping up with Keith with 8 laps to go at Darlington.
Yeah, it feels like the laps have really flown by here tonight. We've been green for most of the time, just a handful of cautions we've had tonight, but the 41 of Sean Powell still got about a 3.5-second lead over the 19 of Mike T. Bruno, and that's really what it's been about tonight. That 41 and 19 machine absolutely dominated the field, but we got a Scotty Reinshield, that 27, got about a 1.2 second lead over Doug Lemons. Then you got Brent Keith, Sean M. Ryan. I think if we see a battle here, it's going to be between that 32 and that 04.
I think that this top 5 isn't secure quite yet for Keith. You're right on that because, again, Ryan does have that damage that is going to hurt him a bit, but right now Keith is having to let by a lot of lap traffic when they're starting to catch up to him and is losing some time, especially on the middle to exit of the corners. Because as you've seen there, he got a bit loose and had to move down the racetrack. That's where Ryan comes to shine on the racetrack, especially women too.
It is, but Brent Keith is able to get an even bigger advantage over him.
Yeah, because remember, Keith does not have that damage on the front end that Ryan has. So that is going to hurt Ryan at the end of the straightaways. Although it may or may not help him a bit in the corners as Keith almost tapped the wall again. That added a little bit of a puffed up right front to Keith's truck with 5 laps to go at Darlington.
5 laps to go. The battle's still heating up here for that top 5 position. Who's it going to be, Sean Ryan or Brent Keith?
That's going to be the big question as this continues to heat on up. And one of the most quiet storylines tonight, in fact, one of the largest ones, has been Gen X Racing that you've mentioned a few times. The top 3 is all Gen X Racing trucks looking to go 1, 2, 3, 4 laps to go as the battle continues to unfold for the top for the 5th spot.
Brent Keith. Oh, and actually Sean Ryan hits the wall.
Yes, he hit the wall, and that might lose him the chance completely to try and battle for the spot. Let's see what happened to him on board on top of his truck. And in that case, I think, Davis, it was the case of checking up so he didn't mow the wall down.
Yeah, I think you're right, too. But it's getting really close to the end of this race. Let's see. The leaders are on lap 189, 3 laps to go. Sean Powell still got about a 4.5 second lead over Mike T. Bruno.
But that 1, 2, 3 for Gen X Racing is not safe yet because Scotty Reinshield has fallen apart. He is down to the 31-second bracket as Doug Lemons looks to break up that 1, 2, 3. 2 laps to go at Darlington. Question is there going to be enough time here, Davis, for Doug Lemons to try and get the 3rd spot?
I don't think so. Got about a lap and a half left. Well, as they come out of the turn, Doug Lemons is really going to have to hit on the afterburners here. Did he save enough grip on those tires? They're coming towards turns 3 and 4. The 27 of Scotty Reinshield about half a second. The 70 of Doug Lemons looks low on him. Can't quite make it stick. The 27 of Scotty Reinshield still holding close to that wall. Both drivers are loose. The 70 of Doug Lemons goes spinning around. He's actually able to hold it. So instead of losing 5, 6, 7 position, he's only going to lose about 2 or 3.
So Doug Lemons lets by lap traffic. All of this has been going on as Sean Powell takes the white flag and now takes the checker flag. He'll win the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250. And with that situation you just seen for Doug Lemons, that secures a 1-2-3 for Gen X Racing. Glove Box Racing's Brent Keith will finish in the 5th spot and holds off Sean M. Ryan to finish in the top 5 in the Dale Jr. MLB All-Star Game Throwback. But one heck of a night tonight for the whole Gen X Racing organization. A 1-2-3 for them at Darlington. And it looks like Powell slowed down. I wonder if he's ran out of gas.
He might have, because I knew they were cutting it close there. And it looks like the 27 giving the 19 a little bit of bump. And yeah, he might have ran out of gas.
Yeah, he's out of gas. Remember, we were just inside the fuel window. And Sean Powell looks to be the only one of his teammates to run out of fuel. They will all try and celebrate burnouts together down the front stretch in what was a dominating night for them overall.
It was very dominating night for Gen X Racing, and man, it just really goes to show you just a little bit of practice. These newer builds, they got the upper hand on them. They're really able to showcase that here tonight.
It looks like he might save just a touch of fuel to at least do a couple burnouts here. Why don't we look at your unofficial results as that Jeff Burton throwback decides to join itself into victory lane. Jeff Burnham's probably smiling from somewhere right now from the NBC booths at Indianapolis. Sean Powell wins and dominates at the Darlington Raceway tonight, winning by 5.6 seconds over his teammate Mike Bruno. And to round out the top 3 for Gen X, Scotty Reinshield is able to hold on after Doug Lemons loses control on the last lap down the front stretch. He still finishes 4th, with Brent Keefe rounding out the top 5. Sean M. Ryan and Brad Neer finished off on the lead lap tonight. John Verga was the first driver a lap down, with Ryan Lange ending up the race tonight with HMF Racing 2 laps down. Tim Marlowe with BE Racing also finishes in the top 10. Everett F. Lane had some bad luck at times tonight, started with the timing of his pit stops, as well as some trouble with incidents. He finished 6 laps down. Gregory Thompson and Marshall Berry among the double-digit club, along with Bobby Everhart, Timothy McQueen, Brandon Holder, Paul Bliss, Keith Stewart, Timmy Logwood Jr., and Doc Stout. The standings for that top 16 going to be really shaken up with some of the bad days for some of those drivers around the cut line. Brad Patterson and Sean Molsek will be in the 21st and 22nd spots, with James Torrey, Matt Kingsbury, Tyler Hayes, James Hickson, Doyle Rance, Malik Ray, and Damian Plasmager all not finishing tonight's action. But with that, we'll take a quick commercial break here on RaceSpotTV. You're watching the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250 on RaceSpotTV. Welcome back, everyone, to Darlington Raceway for your post-race coverage of the Glove Box Racing Throwback 250 from Darlington Raceway. It's been a wild night of racing. Sean Powell dominated tonight from Darlington Raceway, leading a vast majority of the laps. With that, let's go to our sponsor presentation by Brent Keefe from Glove Box Racing. Brent, you have the floor.
Well, Sean, seems to be old hat once again, huh? So,
Hey, it's your fault. You just want you to race and I just win them.
Well, congrats, man. That was a good show. That was congrats to the field, though. I think that was a pretty good race in my mind. But yeah, hats off, Sean, and your Amsoil guys. That was a really good show. Great job.
Yeah, thanks for the sponsor, Brent. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And
Well, I want you to do is just sponsor the whole rest of the season.
I'm sure Keith would love that. But right on, man. Right on. I want to thank everybody for putting in effort. All the nice paint schemes out there. I got to look at a few during practice and throughout the week, and I appreciate the skill, of the racetrack, and the guys that are tuning in, and guys that they show their talent in the paint booth as well. It's all come together tonight. Look good in my eyes. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brent. Stand by. We'll speak to you in just a few moments after coming away with the top 5 yourself. But Sean, where do we even start with this? You absolutely decimated the field in terms of pace tonight. How are you feeling after coming away with the victory, leading a vast majority of the laps tonight?
Dude, I didn't know what I had, honestly. It was just one of them things when the new build comes out, I don't think anyone knows what they had, and I wasn't really happy with the set of how it was looking and stuff, but it was pretty good, evidently. I can't really complain.
Let's go to that build here for a second. How were you and your teammates feeling with this new build to try and prepare for tonight, along with the Brickyard at the same time, with only about 5 hours at the most to prepare for tonight?
It was tough. I found what I found really probably about an hour and a half before the race started, and I was working on something else, but it just wasn't really working out the way I wanted to, and started over and just found something relative quickly, but thing was on rails. I'm pretty sure everybody will be stepping up their game next week, though, because, you got more time on your hands. Everybody else gets the same time on their hands a whole week to get ready for it, and a whole week of learning.
Yeah, and right now let's shift, of course, to the race itself. How you mentioned the truck was on rails. What was, again, going through your mind as you're running on your railroad track while also, at times, trying to keep up and then pass your teammate Mike Bruno?
Yeah, he's fast on short run. He was killing me in 3 and 4 for most of the race, and I was like, man, I got to figure out how to prevent that bleeding. I went to the bottom by accident, passing the lap car, and I kind of liked it down there. I just stayed down there. It was working for me, and he couldn't get it to work quite well as I was, but I was trying to coach him best I could.
For sure. And of course, one of the main unique characteristics was the throwback portion of it. How much work, again? You guys put a lot of work, it seemed, to get the throwback stuff together. How do you feel about the whole throwback race weekend that we had tonight?
Oh, I love it, man. It was an absolute blast, that's for sure. Just all these good paint schemes. I can't paint with the 2 cents, the way you want to call it, but the painters, man, they can paint, that's for sure, and I love them. But mine was a Kurt Busch throwback to 1999 with the Exide truck.
I kind of first glance thought of the Jeff Burton throwback, but now you just reminded me of that Kurt Busch one, and now it definitely makes much more sense with the truck now that I think about that number 99 back from 2001-ish, I think it was. Yep. With that. But either way, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of this domination station tonight?
I just want to thank Stuart for the series. I want to thank Brent Keefe for another sponsor. I still want him to sponsor some more races, though. But I want to thank Amsoil, Gen X, everybody that has anything to do with it. I want to give a shout out to the people that have been watching the race. I know we tried to put on a good show for them, and I think we did. I mean, long green flag runs tonight. I like it.
A lot of long green flag runs at Darlington. Great action tonight. Congratulations on the victory, Sean.
Thanks, man. Take care. Oh, yeah, I want to thank y'all guys, too, if I forget that.
Yes, thank you very much for the thank yous from you, Sean. Sean Powell coming away with a victory tonight for Gen X Racing as part of a 1-2-3. With that, why don't we bring in your second place finisher for tonight's action, Mike T. Bruno. As you heard, coming away second as the development driver, he's going to be standing by with Davis Richards. Davis?
Hey, Mike T. Bruno, it's Davis Richards up here in the RaceSpotTV booth. Hey, man, that was a pretty long and grueling race we were watching. It seemed like you had more of a short-run truck, and on those longer runs, Sean Powell was really able to get by you probably around, what, lap 20, 25 or so. How was it like in the truck, and how slick were those tires?
Yeah, you're right there. You definitely had a good long-run truck. It got pretty tight for me after about 20-25 laps, but then a little bit further in, about 30-35, it started to loosen up, kind of out of two there. But I was, for some reason, I was really burning up my right front. I think I was just driving in too deep going into 3, and I was trying to mimic what Sean was doing in 3 and 4. He was really getting the truck to work down low. I just couldn't make it work down there, and he was killing me on that end of the track, and just kind of couldn't really get it to work in the long run, but the short run felt pretty good. But definitely happy with the finish we got tonight.
And so how different was it in those trucks with the new build? We've heard they've made some aerodynamic changes, made more air into the engine so you can use more downforce to run that tape. So how different, and especially coming to Darlington, I know is no easy task, especially when you've only had, what, 4 or 5 hours on a new build?
Yeah, I'm not much of a setup guy, but as far as feel goes, yeah, it felt a little bit different. You know, it kind of felt like more how it used to feel a year or two ago, and I like that. But yeah, it's definitely fun to drive again. Not that it wasn't, but it just they went in the right direction with it this time, I should say.
And being a developmental driver and then coming away with your highest finish of the season, what kind of momentum does this give you? And I know you're not in the chase, but especially being able to say, hey, I can run with these guys, I have what it takes. What does that do for your momentum throughout the rest of the season and for next season when you'll be running full time?
Yeah, it definitely helps big time. I've had a rough couple of weeks since I started on here. Just had some tough luck and bad finishes, but definitely starting to turn things around here. I think we're going to Indianapolis next week. It's definitely not one of my better tracks, but hopefully I can run up front again and bring home one of these top 3 finishes, and if not a win, you know, you never know, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, before we let you go, you got anyone out there you want to thank?
Yeah, definitely. First off, I want to congrats Sean on the win. He did an awesome job, man. Well deserved. Scotty, Doug, all those guys ran a great race. I want to thank my team, Gen X Racing, Christian, Brent, all those guys. I want to thank my sponsor, AMSOIL, as always, and I want to thank you guys for what you do, and I want to thank Keith for the league. Appreciate everything.
Well, congratulations again on your second place finish. I'm sure we'll be talking to you more as we finish out the season and next season, but congratulations again there, Mike.
Thanks, Davis. Appreciate it.
And that was Mike Bruno coming away today's second for tonight's action for the throwback action. Let's talk to the third Gen X truck to complete the 1-2-3. Scotty Reinshield joins us in the broadcast booth. Scotty, how are you feeling about the top 3 tonight?
Oh man, I'll take it. It was a hard-fought race for me. I didn't drive the greatest race. Started off with some damage early and sweating, and I'm happy with that. I'll take it.
How difficult was it again to handle that truck, because you took a lot of big hits to that right side and adding a lot of stripes, and as well as a lot of dents to that entire right side of the truck?
Yeah, I don't. You know, the ones I did myself, it didn't seem to affect it a whole lot. You know, it just gave up a lot of time. As far as the damage, I think most of the damage that slowed me down was early in the race, but it just cost me some time. It didn't really, once the truck was banged up, it didn't seem to affect it much more after that.
And talk about what was going through your head as Lemons was closing on in the final couple laps, and then you see Lemons get loose. What was going through her head as he was coming quick, gaining 2 to 3 tenths a lap?
Yeah, we were kind of discussing fuel, and I was trying to save a little bit. It seemed like I was a couple seconds ahead of the guys behind me, and I was trying to hold that, and kind of lost track of it for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I looked at my relative, and Doug was, right behind me, and or at least a spot behind me, and like 1.5, 1.6 seconds back. And I was like, oh shoot, I sped it up, and it got back to my normal pace, and we kept even there, right there for several laps, and then I caught the wall in 3 and 4 a couple times and really let him close in, and then once he got close, he was wheeling it. I mean, if he hadn't have got loose, there out of 4, it would have been a dogfight on that last lap, and I don't know if I could have held him off or not. It would have been a tight race, but we came out of 4, and I seen him wiggle a little bit. The next time I looked up, I could read his numbers, and I honestly thought he died. I didn't think that he was able to save it until later on around the lap. I seen that he was still in my relative. That had to be a pretty impressive save, because I seen the complete side of his truck in my rearview mirror.
Yeah, he almost went around a couple different times before saving around in that case. But real quickly, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of tonight's action and being the last of 3 trucks to secure a 1, 2, 3 for your team?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely want to thank the team, Gen X, our sponsor, AMSOIL. Sean really put in some time for us today with the new build coming out to get us something that we had some speed with. Our spotters tonight, Corey and Brad, really helped with the fuel, and you guys for the coverage, Keith for the series, anybody that's stayed around watching, I appreciate it. And I ran the Dick Trickle paint today, and on the back I got the suicide prevention hotline. It was a shame that he took his own life, and hopefully anybody that's in that position will seek some help.
Thank you very much for the time, and again, thank you very much for putting the awareness to the cause on the back of your truck. Congratulations on the top 3.
Thanks, guys.
Scotty Reinshield finishing off 3rd tonight to complete a 1, 2, 3 for Gen X Racing. But now Davis Richards is going to be standing by with somebody who had a yo-yo of a night again and recovered his way to 4th, Doug Lemons. Davis?
Hey Doug, it's Davis up here in the RaceSpotTV booth. Man, you got into some contact earlier in the race, found yourself back in the pack, and then you started slowly fighting your way back up. Very methodical, and man, wound up with the top 5, but then seen you shooting high for the 27 of Scotty Reinshield on the last lap and ended up got spinning around, but somehow still managed up in the top 4. Man, how crazy of a race was it for you in that number 70 machine? Because I know it was crazy watching you.
Yeah, I did have the yo-yo effect, and I hit the wall more times than I care to say. But yeah, it was I had a decent long-run tune, but by the time I made my way through the pack, the leaders were gone. I didn't have nothing for those guys.
Yeah, they had some very fast trucks out there, but still nonetheless coming out with that top 5 finish, really showing and getting in some momentum as we get closer to the chase and the playoffs. But before we let you go, you got anyone out there you want to thank?
Oh yeah, GBR for sponsoring the race, Keith Stewart, you guys, and Doug's Auto Repair. Without that, this wouldn't happen.
Well, congratulations again, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon in the near future.
All right, bud, I appreciate it.
And that was Doug Lemons coming away 4th tonight as everyone's favorite yo-yo able to secure a top 5. Brent Keith, meanwhile, finished off in that said top 5 in the 5th spot after an intense battle near the end with Sean Ryan. How are you feeling, and how difficult was it to try and hold on to the top 5 in the last few moments of this race?
It was. It got, as the truck ran out of gas.
Really?
It was, yeah, I ran out of gas coming in the pits at the end of the race, but I think the top 3 guys, I think they had under a gallon left as well. But as the truck and as I had 2-3 gallons left in it, it was absolute handful. I mean, it reminded me of driving a late model on dirt as well, coming off of 2 and 4. But no, I got a little damage on that last restart, and it would not turn, and then it would get loose as a fuel burn out of it. So I salvaged it, but it definitely was a handful, because you had, everybody was running hard at the end, and it just made it that much more uncomfortable to drive. But we got it to the end, and thank God, one piece. So success.
That's definitely the most important part, making sure you get to the start and finish line. But of course, as you discussed again with the sponsor presentation, Glovebox Racing was the official sponsor for tonight. You talked a little bit of how much work was put into the Throwback weekend, how much effort again was put to try and make sure that this went off without a hitch, to make sure as many teams as possible were taking part in this Throwback race.
Exactly. Well, me and Keith we talked a month or so ahead of time, and then when he put the schedule out in January, I think it was the end of January, I told him I wanted, the Darlington weekend, because we did a Throwback last year, and it turned out. So he had all the website ready to go, the sign-up sheet on the member section. Everybody would register their paints, and if somebody was already taking, you'd pick a different one. But and all the decals, all kind of Throwback decals for all our trucks. I made quite a bit of different, vintage decals, and for Doug's truck, and Perry didn't make it tonight. He had to work. He had a good looking truck as well, and and everybody else. I think there was 23 or 24 paints that were on the sign up sheet, and they were all pretty legit. I was pretty happy with it. It was once again, I got to thank everybody for the effort. It was looked pretty cool. Can't wait to watch the race.
That's a great turnout in terms of Throwback paint staff. 24 out of 29 trucks tonight taking part in that. I believe as well, to ask real quick, there was also a little thing to decide who had the best paint scheme. Can you provide a little details on that?
Our live admin, Matt Holden, and a couple of his guys that are with him. I think they're gonna talk about it and then let me know. And then I don't know if Keith's gonna announce on the website tomorrow, because our website updates Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, and then whoever wins it, I'll PayPal them $25, or if they want iRacing credits, whatever. But yeah, it's up to the high commander up there in the booth. So we'll see what them guys come up with.
We'll see who gets that $25. But is there anyone you want to thank before he lets you get going tonight?
Absolutely. First off, Keith Stewart for putting up with all us knuckleheads. So he does a great job. I know he's a busy guy, and excellent website, excellent league, communication's great. All the teams that fall in line here. We got team structure, and all those guys, Doug, Lemons, Perry, Stelson, Queen, you guys at RaceSpot, Amsoil guys put on a good show, along with the rest of the field. It went way better than I thought it was when the build come out, and I seen the weather that we were gonna have. Thank God we had a little bit of clouds. So, but yeah, it was overall. I'm happy with the turnout and the effort tonight. So, bravo.
Bravo indeed. Congratulations on the top 5, and congratulations for putting on a great Throwback event tonight.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll talk to you at Indy.
We'll see what happens when we get to Indy. Brent Keefe once again finishing off in the top 5, as Indianapolis is the final race before the postseason. Once the postseason starts, we go to Las Vegas, Richmond, then Charlotte. So a lot of interesting events left on the schedule from here on out, but there's still going to be a lot of pressure for the drivers to try and get yourself to the round of 16 and onward to get yourself to Homestead. Davis?
You're absolutely right, Justin. We've seen an awesome race out here tonight at Darlington, but there's still some chances left to get yourself in the playoffs. And then once we get to the playoffs, man, it is going to be a thriller from the drop of the green flag to the drop of the checkered in Homestead. And hey, I'm excited. If this is any way it's going to be, then man, like I said, especially with the new build as well, that brings a lot of new dynamics, and we're going to see a lot of these drivers are going to have more time to set up their or tune their setups. So we're going to see what they bring to the table as well.
We absolutely will have to see what they bring to the table once again to find out who wins the $25 tonight for the best throwback scheme. Go to the website for the Espeed Contender Series. That is espeedsimracing.com. But it's time to say goodbye overall from Darlington Raceway. You've been watching the Espeed Contender Series and the GBR Throwback 250. For Davis Richards, for Hugo Ruiz, for all our sponsors and more, I'm Justin Prince saying so long and have a wonderful night. We'll see you next weekend at the Brickyard.